Hey there, wondering how to use the iron and model triangle in Agile projects? Well, in this video, we'll be talking about that and more. And my name is Josh Vector, and I'm one of the founders here at Product HQ. And I'll be sharing some key tips and advice on the approach product leaders must take to successfully incorporate the iron triangle model in their Agile projects. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our channel, and that way you don't miss any of our future videos on how to build great products. Now let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, mapping the iron triangle model to an Agile project is no easy feat. As you know, the iron triangle model is all about depicting the relationship between triple constraints in a project, namely scope, costs, and time, and how all of them contribute to the success, or sometimes lack thereof, of a given project and product. Therefore, the first thing that you must know about incorporating the iron triangle model into your Agile project is that if you want to have any margin of success, you must know how to control, evaluate, and above all, balance all three constraints. Scope as a restraint refers to what you have planned to deliver, with cost referring to the expenses incurred to complete a project, and time meaning how long it takes to get everything done. And therefore, any change you introduce to one constraint means that you must adjust the other two constraints in some way to offset or counterbalance the initial change. For that reason, the trick that any and every project manager must follow when mapping the iron triangle to an Agile project is to master the art of weighing and counterbalancing the three constraints. Managing each constraint requires a different approach. Now let's go ahead and break each one down one by one. So when it comes to managing scope, identify and break down the tasks that the team must complete. You should start with the project planning phase, then make your way down to the design, development, and launch phases, making sure to account for all tasks that the team has to complete. And in doing so, be sure to omit any work that does not have any clear scope, direction, or path to completion. Requirement gathering, defining, and validating the scope are all research techniques that help your project team map out the tasks that need to be done. So be sure to use them to establish a well-defined scope. Then, once you've defined the project scope, you must now manage time as a constraint. To do so, come up with estimated completion times for the tasks you've laid out in the project scope. And this should also include time for any dependencies with other projects, since their delivery timeline affects your project. And you should compare time with previous project deliveries to better understand the estimates and actual time you need to put in. And once you've done that, create a roadmap like the one you see on the screen to help you visualize how these tasks interact with each other over time. And some of them will overlap and happen concurrently, while others will happen sequentially, meaning only once one task has been marked as completed. And this helps you to develop a clear set of milestones that act as KPIs to help you track progress. And last but not least, when it comes to costs, one of the key things you must take into account is the budget allocation for your project during the planning phases. As a project manager, you must define the budget as early as possible and make allocations where necessary to cover the costs throughout the project. And these costs include the cost of physical resources, be it in renting a workspace in a building or desks and chairs, virtual resources such as any software that you need to acquire to carry out the project, and human resources in the form of salaries and benefits packages that you must offer to the team in compensation for their work, among other types of costs. Now, let's go ahead and take a closer look at how to balance these three constraints in a practical setting. In the traditional software model, project managers fix the scope by creating a big, thick bundle of requirements up front and agreeing to deliver them all. As development gets underway, the team deviates from the original optimistic plan, be it that things will run late or their cost increases. And this situation helps us to understand human anxiety a bit more. When faced with a fixed scope, late and over budget, well, the natural reaction of many customers, clients, and companies is to cut and burn the scope in a drastic effort to adhere to the schedule and budget. What we learn from this is that at the start of a project managers always say that scope is what matters most. So they work to fix that with the hope of the initial allowances of time and cost will be enough to hopefully carry the project home. However, during the project itself, when time and budget go haywire, the team's priority flips to time and budget instead. This means that they will fix them instead of narrowing down the scope to fit. So whereas we started with a utopian vision and fixed scope, somewhere along the way, we tend to invert our thinking to avert our anxieties and opt for a fixed time and budget instead. However, what we must remember is that long after the project has been completed, what makes a lasting impression is the quality and usefulness of the product, which translates to its scope. And therefore, we must prioritize it at all costs while understanding that it's a delicate balancing act between what people say that they want and what they are willing to pay for. And often all three variables need to flex in order to accommodate others while still maintaining quality. And there you have it. We've taken a look at what the iron triangle model is, as well as how Agile project managers incorporate it in Agile projects. And I hope this video gave you a better understanding of the subject matter. And if you feel like you do have a better understanding, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and that way you don't miss any of our videos on how to build great products. And again, my name is Josh. I'm one of the founders of Product HQ, and I'll go ahead and see you in some of our following videos. Cheers.